Lieutenant Jake Morrison crouched behind the twisted metal wreckage of what once was a supply transport. The red sand of planet Xerion stretched endlessly around him, painted crimson by the alien sun overhead. His rifle felt heavy in his hands as explosions echoed across the battlefield. The war between humans and the Zephyrian Empire had raged for 3 years now. Jake had seen too many friends die on too many worlds, but nothing had prepared him for what he found in the crashed enemy vessel. Small cry pierced through the sound of distant gunfire. Jake moved carefully through the debris, his boots crunching on broken glass and twisted metal panels. The cry came again, weaker this time. He followed the sound deeper into the wreckage there. In a protected alcove, he found them. A young Zephyrian child no more than 5 human years old sat crying beside the still form of what appeared to be her father. The little girl had the typical Zephyrian features, pale blue skin, large violet eyes, and delicate pointed ears. Her small hands shook as she tried to wake the motionless adult. Jake lowered his weapon. Something twisted in his chest as he looked at the scared child. The Zephyrians might be the enemy, but this was just a frightened little girl who had lost her parent. He approached slowly, hands visible. The child looked up at him with those huge violet eyes filled with terror. She spoke in rapid Zephyrian words he could not understand, but her meaning was clear. She was begging him not to hurt her. Jake knelt down and set his rifle aside completely. The universal translator in his helmet kicked in as the child spoke again. "Please do not harm me," she whispered. "I am just looking for my mother." Jake felt his heart break. The little girl was not with her father, but searching for her mother, who might be anywhere on this war-torn planet. He made a decision that would change everything. He reached out slowly, palm up. The child hesitated, then placed her tiny blue hand in his much larger human one. "I will help you find her," he said gently. The child told him her name was Lyra. Her mother, Captain Zara. Moonwhisper was a decorated officer in the Zephyrian fleet. Their transport had been shot down while evacuating civilians from the war zone. Lyra had been thrown clear, but her mother was trapped somewhere in the larger section of the crashed ship. Jake knew he should call for backup, report the enemy survivors, and let command decide what to do with them. But looking at Lyra, he could not bring himself to follow protocol. Instead, he picked up the child and began searching through the wreckage. They found Captain Zara Moonwhisper pinned beneath a fallen beam in what used to be the ship's medical bay. She was unconscious, but alive. Her breathing was shallow, and Jake could see she had lost a lot of the silver fluid that served as Zephyrian blood. Lyra cried out and tried to run to her mother, but Jake held her back gently. The beam was too heavy for him to lift alone, and moving it wrong could crush the trapped woman. He needed help, but calling his unit would mean turning them over as prisoners. Instead, Jake activated his emergency beacon, but on a private frequency. His friend Lisa Parker responded immediately. She was a combat medic stationed 2 clicks away. "Jake, I have your position. What is your status?" she asked. "I need medical help," he replied carefully. "No questions. Just bring your kit and maybe some lifting equipment." Lisa arrived 20 minutes later and stopped cold when she saw the situation. Jake had never asked her to treat enemy wounded before. But she looked at little Lyra holding her mother's hand and speaking softly in Zephyrian, and her medic training kicked in. Life was life regardless of species. Together, they managed to lift the beam and extract Captain Zara. Lisa worked quickly treating the woman's injuries, while Jake kept watch for enemy or friendly patrols. The area was supposed to be clear, but in war, nothing was certain. Captain Zara regained consciousness as Lisa was sealing the last of her wounds. Her violet eyes opened and immediately found her daughter. Then they shifted to Jake, kneeling nearby with his rifle ready to defend them from any threat. "You are human," she said, in accented but clear English. "Why do you help us?" Jake met her gaze steadily. "Because she needed help and I could give it." The Zephyrian woman studied his face for a long moment. Something passed between them, an understanding that transcended the war, raging around them. She struggled to sit up despite Lisa's protests. "You saved my child," she said to Jake. You protected her when you could have left her or turned her over to your commanders. You showed her kindness when she was afraid and alone. Jake shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. I just did what anyone would do. No, Captain Zara said firmly, rising to her feet with obvious effort. Most would not have risked themselves for an enemy child. You are not like other humans I have encountered. In this war, she placed a hand on Lyra's shoulder and spoke to her daughter in rapid Zephyrian. The little girl nodded solemnly and ran to Jake, wrapping her small arms around his leg. Captain. Zara straightened, and when she spoke again, her voice carried an authority that made Jake instinctively stand at attention. By the ancient laws of my people, when someone saves the life of our child and protects them from harm, they become family. The debt can only be repaid by a life bond. Jake frowned, not understanding. A life bond. You belong to us now, she said simply. And we belong to you. The bond transcends politics and war. You are no longer just human soldier. Jake Morrison. You are part of Clan Moonwhisper. Before Jake could respond, alarms began sounding in the distance. Both human and Zephyrian forces were moving toward their position, drawn by the emergency beacon Lisa had accidentally activated while treating Captain Zara. We have to move, Jake said, but he looked at the alien woman and child, uncertain. How do we do this? Captain Zara smiled for the first time since he had found them. It transformed her face, making her look younger and incredibly beautiful. There is a neutral station at the edge of this system, she said. We can all reach it safely. But Jake Morrison, you must choose. Do you accept the bond? Do you choose to be family? Jake looked down at little Lyra, still clinging to his leg. Her violet eyes looked up at him with complete trust. This child, who had every reason to fear him, instead saw him as protection, as safety. Then he looked at Captain Zara. This woman, who should see him as an enemy, instead offered him something he had never expected: family, acceptance, belonging. The sound of approaching vehicles grew louder. Time was running. How to say accept, he said. Captain Zara reached out and took his hand. Her skin was cool and soft, but her grip was firm. With her other hand, she touched his forehead, speaking words in ancient Zephyrian that seemed to resonate in his bones. The bond is made, she said. You are ours and we are yours, now and always, as enemy and friendly forces converged on their position. Jake Morrison, human soldier, found himself running not toward battle, but toward something entirely new. He carried Lyra while Captain Zara led them toward a hidden escape pod she had located. Behind them, the war continued to rage. But ahead lay possibility, a chance for something different, something better. 3 unlikely family members racing toward the stars together, bound by honor, courage, and an alien law that made them stronger than any army. The pod lifted off just as the first troops arrived, carrying them toward a future none of them could have imagined. But all of them chose together.